Melina stands barefoot on cold stone as dawn drains color from the Spartan sky, the light thinning into a pale wash that reveals nothing beyond function. The courtyard is enclosed, rectangular, deliberate, every angle sharpened by purpose rather than beauty. The stones beneath her feet are worn smooth by centuries of ordered movement, by bodies that learn to obey before they learn to choose. Nothing here is ornamental. Nothing is accidental. 3 days earlier, Athens burned. Her house collapsed inward, timber cracking like bone, tiles sliding into fire with a sound she will never forget. Smoke filled her lungs before grief could. Her children did not scream long. That mercy feels obscene now, a detail that returns without invitation and refuses to leave. Grief has no place to land. It circulates inside her, compressed and disciplined by necessity, forced into stillness by the simple requirement to remain upright and silent. 31 women stand beside her in ordered rows, their eyes lowered or fixed ahead, their bodies arranged not by chance but by instruction. No chains bind them. No guards press close. Sparta does not need visible force. Control here is internalized, learned early, reinforced endlessly through repetition until obedience feels natural and deviation feels dangerous. A man in a crimson cloak crosses the courtyard. He does not hurry. He does not slow. His presence is authority refined into habit, authority that no longer needs to announce itself. When he speaks, his voice is dry, precise, stripped of ornament and emotion. You are no longer Athenians. You are no longer wives. You are no longer what you were. There is no cruelty in his tone, no pleasure, no hatred, only closure delivered with the efficiency of a final accounting. He speaks of reassignment, of civic need, of distribution. His words belong to administration, not conquest. They reduce lives to categories without acknowledging the reduction. When he turns away, the silence deepens, as if sound itself has been dismissed. Silence is Sparta's most reliable instrument, heavier than chains and more effective than threats. The women are separated by Spartan matrons who move with calm efficiency, their gestures brief, memorized, exact. Hands indicate direction. Bodies obey. Melina understands immediately that resistance here is not dramatic. It does not create martyrs or moments. It is simply ineffective, a gesture without consequence that only attracts correction and attention. Inside the stone building, the air smells of water and clean surfaces. Light enters from narrow slits high in the walls, offering illumination without view, visibility without perspective. She is questioned. Age, health, history. The questions are technical, arranged to extract information without acknowledging the person who provides it. Her answers are recorded in wax by a woman whose face holds neither curiosity nor disdain, only function. No explanation is offered. None is required. Knowledge here belongs upward. She is not evaluated as a person. She is processed as material, sorted by usefulness, flagged by probability, assigned by outcome. That night she lies awake on a hard pallet. Food has been provided. Enough, no more. Precision governs even survival. She notices the portioning, the careful avoidance of waste, the way care itself feels conditional rather than compassionate. As darkness settles, she understands something essential that reshapes her fear into clarity. This city does not hate her. Hatred would imply recognition. Sparta operates on elimination of excess, not emotional response. She is alive because she may still be useful. That knowledge is colder than grief, colder even than the stone beneath her. Sparta was not born cruel. It was forged. Centuries earlier, it conquered land it could not trust and people it could not absorb. Fear became its permanent condition, a constant pressure that shaped every decision. Control became its solution, refined over generations until it appeared virtuous. Every institution evolved to serve that solution. Children were taken early, separated from softness before softness could take root. Family bonds were weakened deliberately. Affection was identified as a risk, a distraction from cohesion. Obedience replaced morality. Endurance replaced compassion. Thought was narrowed until doubt itself felt unnatural, until questions sounded like threats rather than curiosity. What could not be controlled was removed. What could be repurposed was absorbed and standardized. Ritual replaced debate. Habit replaced conscience. Over time, the system learned to reproduce itself without instruction, like a mechanism that requires no operator and tolerates no interruption. Melina moves through this structure like an object passing along a channel designed long before she existed. She is assigned to a household under Cleomenes, a full Spartan citizen whose authority is quiet and assumed, whose posture reflects years of training that erased hesitation. Cleomenes is not cruel. He is disciplined. He speaks in statements, not emotions, in conclusions rather than questions. His life has been shaped by the same forces that now govern her fate, forces that taught him to act without reflection and to value function over feeling. Their early interactions are minimal and functional, framed by necessity and instruction. Gradually, conversation develops, not intimacy but exchange, a cautious negotiation of presence. Melina listens carefully. She mirrors Spartan restraint. She avoids emotional language that would sound excessive or unstable. She speaks in terms of order, continuity, practicality. She learns when to be silent and when to speak, how to time her words to moments when they will be received as useful rather than intrusive. Cleomenes notices. In Sparta, deviation is dangerous, but efficiency is respected. Melina learns to frame herself as stable, predictable, low risk. She becomes a known quantity and therefore preferable to uncertainty. She learns the rhythms of Spartan life, the cadence of days shaped by training, assembly, labor, and repetition. She observes how authority flows silently, how women enforce the system as faithfully as men, how cruelty is disguised as necessity and necessity elevated to virtue. At night, whispers circulate among the women, fragments of information exchanged carefully, always incomplete, names never explained, assignments that end abruptly, transfers no one returns from. Fear does not need confirmation to function, possibility is enough. Melina does not resist openly, she studies, she adapts. She preserves her inner self by treating every interaction as information, every instruction as data about the structure enclosing her. The system expects obedience. It does not expect understanding. That becomes her advantage. Time passes, measured not in days but in assessments and observations. Cleomenes begins to speak more freely in Melina's presence. Not sentimentally, but analytically, as if thinking aloud without the rigid performance required among other men. With her, he does not need to perform Spartan certainty. She is outside the hierarchy. Property cannot betray. That paradox creates space. Melina becomes useful beyond her assigned function. She organizes stores, anticipates needs, reduces friction between routines. She notices inefficiencies and corrects them quietly without drawing attention. She learns which improvements will be accepted and which will provoke suspicion. Cleomenes begins to defend her position using Spartan logic, stability, efficiency, future value. Protection in Sparta does not come from kindness. It comes from justification that can be repeated to others without embarrassment. When the ephors summon her, she understands the risk immediately. Their language is neutral and administrative. They describe alternative assignments without detail. They frame consequences without threat, transferring responsibility while preserving authority. She chooses continuity. The choice changes nothing on the surface, but it signals something deeper. She is no longer invisible. She is being tracked, evaluated, placed within a longer calculation. From that moment, Melina understands the truth of survival here with brutal clarity. Compliance is insufficient. Even usefulness is temporary. Only dependence endures. She begins to position herself not as replaceable labor, but as an integrated component whose removal would introduce uncertainty into routines others rely on. She makes herself difficult to extract without disruption. Cleomenes' schedules now include her presence. His defenses incorporate her role. The system tightens around them both, not violently but incrementally, like a net drawn in by patient hands. Cleomenes changes subtly. He begins to think in variations rather than absolutes, to consider outcomes rather than rules alone, to recognize that rigidity sometimes produces instability. He still serves Sparta, but he has learned that stability sometimes requires flexibility, even if the word itself is never spoken. Melina does not mistake this for rebellion. Sparta is too deeply rooted, too confident in its permanence. But she understands leverage when she sees it, understands how dependence alters calculations even within rigid systems. She does not dream of escape. Escape is chaos, and chaos is death. She dreams of position, of being placed where decisions must account for her existence, where removing her would cost more than keeping her. In a city that turns people into mechanisms, power belongs not to those who resist the machine, but to those who understand exactly how it moves and where it cannot afford to jam. Melina remains controlled, restricted, watched. Yet within those constraints, she accumulates small margins, moments where her presence changes outcomes, where her absence would be noticed. She learns that survival here is not a single victory but a series of adjustments, each one narrowing the space for removal. She carries her memories quietly, not as weapons but as anchors, reminders of what she refuses to surrender internally even as everything external is regulated. The stone does not soften, the rules do not relax, but the calculations change. And in Sparta, calculations are everything. Melina is alive. More than that, she is accounted for. She is no longer merely counted. She is calculated, embedded in the logic of a city that believes itself eternal, preparing patiently for the precise moment when even a perfect machine must acknowledge the cost of removing a single, carefully placed part.